Thank you, Chris. And that's the scene at beautiful Scottsdale Stadium. It's a windy night here, rather cool night for this part of the country anyway, but baseball is here. The fans, young and old, are heading into Scottsdale Stadium. Baseball is here at the minor league level. There's Dusty Baker with some of his players signing autographs. His Giants are here for a belated and truncated spring training. We've got minor league baseball for you tonight, but some major leaguers are here too, including that man, Corey Snyder with Las Vegas. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller along with Joe Morgan, and long faces no more. Baseball is back, and not quite big league baseball just yet, but tonight, as we bring you this minor league ball game, we also will be covering the big league story. It's a chaotic period right now. Free agent signings, contract negotiations, all in a very short period of time. And so, Joe, we've got players, general managers, and managers that we'll have here with us to discuss all of the various goings-on.
Well, I'm looking forward to that, John. I don't want to hear about the strike. I want to hear about the things that are going to happen during the season, how they're preparing for the season. We'll hear from Mark McGwire, Dusty Baker, and Bob Quinn. So I'm looking forward to hearing from every level how they're preparing for the season.
Indeed. Now, we'll have those various people with us, including Andy Bennis of the San Diego Padres, and as you said, Mark McGwire of Oakland, general managers, so we'll cover that story. But we'll also be looking at some of the young talent that is here tonight, and each team has a real top prospect.
Well, the Giants have Calvin Murray, who was their #1 draft choice in the June draft in 1992. Here's Calvin hitting a home run on opening day. He was also a member of the 1992 Olympic team. And he's the star that they're looking for in the future. And this is Dustin Hermanson. He is, as they say, he has the mentality of a closer. Plus, he has a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, good slider, and he's been working on a changeup. May look to see him in San Diego before the season is over, John.
And maybe the closer in the future for the Padres here tonight. So we've got Las Vegas and Phoenix before we get into the big league action. Baseball is back. We'll be back with the start after this. John Miller and Joe Morgan back in the Valley of the Sun, ordinarily the springtime home for a host of major league teams who usually are gone by now, but they're still here. But so too, ironically, are the minor league teams who call this area home. There's Tim Flannery, who's brought his team down from Las Vegas to face the hometown Phoenix Firebirds. Here's his lineup: Billy Beane, a veteran in right field; Scott Bream, a prospect, a switch hitter at second base; Steve Springer, third base; Arky Sanfranco has been around the big leagues for a long time, hitting cleanup; Craig Colbert, the catcher; Corey Snyder, signed with the Padres, here now in left field; Ruben Smiley is in center field; Rico Rossi, another big leaguer, at short; and Jose Martinez is on the mound. And on the mound for the hometown Phoenix Firebirds, there is Sergio Valdez, a guy who's been around a long time. He's got big league experience dating back to the mid-'80s.
Well, he's one of those guys, John, that has pitched a lot of innings in the minor leagues and a few in the major leagues, but he has good control. He moves the ball around, throws a lot of different changes, the speeds a lot. And let's take a look at the defense. You have Brent Cookson in left field, Calvin Murray in center field, Mark Leonard in right, Gary Scott's at third base, Clay Bellinger at short, Chris Wimmer at second base, Rod Brewer is at first base, Doug Mirabelli is behind the plate, and Sergio Valdez on the mound.
This is the spring training home of the San Francisco Giants, who will commence with their actual major league exhibition schedule this Thursday afternoon in this ballpark. Here's Billy Beane. Strike one. Fielden Culbreth is the home plate umpire, and he would be a name that might be familiar to American League fans. He's been one of the minor league umpires who rotates during vacation periods in the major leagues. That's strike two, and it's quickly 0-2 to Billy Beane. And that's another story that we may touch on tonight, the fact that although the major league players are back, the major league umpires are not. They are being locked out by the major league owners.
Good pitching there by Valdez.
And he gets the unassisted put out.
Kept Beane off balance. Good fastball inside. Turned the fastball over on the outside corner. Then threw him an off-speed pitch, and Beane was way out in front. Take a look at this pitch. He's way out in front of this pitch because he's been set up by two good fastballs. This looks like a little screwball. See the ball go down, off-speed pitch, and Beane just makes contact.
This is Scott Bream from Omaha, Nebraska. Third-round draft choice for the Padres 6 years ago. So he's a very fine shortstop with excellent range. He's playing second base tonight. Shortstop Bellinger. They got him. Green hustling down the line, but they got him by a step. Out number 2. Now this is the 4th game of this season opening series between these two clubs. They've been playing here since Thursday when the Pacific Coast League season began. And Las Vegas is yet to win a game. Phoenix has swept 3 from the Las Vegas Stars as Steve Springer comes up. And Las Vegas has not hit in this series. They've scored a grand total of 7 runs in 3 games. Broken bat and foul, and that's the manager, Tim Flannery, down at third base. The managers in the Coast League, of course, also are the third base coaches. So they don't have the luxury of a big coaching staff, and they can't hide in the corner of the dugout. They go right out there in the coaching lines. Tim Flannery, you played against him, Joe. He's a longtime infielder with the San Diego Padres.
He's the kind of guy, John, that you would think would grow up to be a big league manager. He was a guy that worked real hard, didn't have a lot of ability, but took advantage of what ability he did have. He worked very hard, and he was the kind of guy that did anything to beat you. He'd bunt with 2 strikes. He'd do a lot of different things, which is kind of a manager type.
But now, if you're going to bunt with 2 strikes, make sure you bunt it fair.
Right.
All right. I'm sure he knew that. 0-1 the count to Springer's got a new bat now. A broken bat. I haven't heard that sound in such a long time, Joe.
You mentioned the fact that in the Coast League, the manager is the third base coach. I like that. If I was a manager, I would like to be out on the lines where at least you're involved in the game a little bit more.
Well, maybe you should get a AAA managing job then.
No, that's okay. I kind of like this. Kind of like what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's kind of like managing and nobody attacks you in the paper the next day. Huh? 1-2 the count to Steve Springer. 2 down, nobody on for Las Vegas. Dusty Baker will be joining us in just a little bit. Probably about the 2nd inning. Andy Bennis is here. That's a foul. Mark McGuire later on will also be on with us. Also the general manager of the San Diego Padres will be stopping by. Randy Smith, the new manager of the Padres, Bruce Bochy, and I think even Vida Blue is going to be stopping in. So we'll be talking about the Major League season, which will be commencing shortly, and all of this chaos that's going on in baseball. I mean, this is unlike any other springtime. Usually all of the free agents are signed, the contract negotiations are finished, and now it's all happening at the same time as even a shortened spring is happening.
I think that's the difficult part about this whole situation, trying to find out who's going to play where.
And down on strikes. So the slumping Las Vegas Stars get no relief here from that man, Sergio Valdez. Calvin Murray, that's Calvin Murray. Stars having taken the field, and we look at manager Keith Bodie of the Phoenix Firebirds, the AAA affiliate of the San Francisco Giants. The Las Vegas team, the San Diego Padres affiliate. Calvin Murray, former football star out of the University of Texas, center field. It'll be Chris Wimmer at second base. Mark Leonard, he's been a big leaguer. Many opportunities in the big leagues in the past, hitting third. Rod Brewer, formerly of the Cardinals, is at first base. It'll be Brent Cookson at left field. Gary Scott, Chicago Cub fans remember him. Remember, he was the phenom of the camp down here a few years back. More phenom here than in Chicago, unfortunately. Clay Bellinger, shortstop. Doug Mirabelli is the catcher, and hitting ninth is the pitcher. Sergio Valdez, 2 National League teams here, so no designated hitter is in evidence. There is Jose Martinez, and if you were with us the day that the Florida Marlins and Colorado Rockies were actually born, you remember that name. He was one of the first men picked by Florida.
Well, he didn't do too well last year. You can see 12 innings pitched and 18 hits. He's a guy that's traveled around a lot, but again, he reminds me of Valdez, moves the ball around. Take a look at the defense. Corey Snyder, former Giant, former Dodger in left field. Ruben Smiley in center field. Billy Bean in right. Steve Springer's at third base. Rico Rossi's the shortstop. Scott Bream at second base. Archie Sinfraco is at first base. Craig Colbert is behind the plate, and Martinez on the mound.
And there is Calvin Murray, 23 years of age. He was a first-round draft choice of the Cleveland Indians when he came out of high school, but he wanted to play football and went to the University of Texas, also played some baseball there. And his star has been diminished somewhat. He's Not been doing that well since he actually signed a professional contract. He had only 231 last year in Double-A ball. And he's an early out here. Ruben Smiley taking that one.
Calvin Murray was a guy the Giants felt would be in their outfield by now. He's shown some speed, but he has not shown a good bat. So they're waiting for him to come around, but they haven't given up on him yet.
They'd like to see him bunt a little more often. Scouts are saying this guy could easily bunt 20 times a year for hits.
Looks like Johnny B. Dusty Baker's asleep there.
Dusty, wake up now. Yeah, Dusty's smiling. He doesn't have the replacement players any longer. He's got the real guys here now. But that will be one of the things we'll ask him about as Chris Wimmer comes up. The Giants' real guys, it's not quite what Giants fans have been used to. No more Billy Swift, no more John Burkett, no more Mike Jackson.
The one thing about talking to Dusty Baker, when you leave there, you'll know a lot more about the situation than you did before you talked to him. I used to spend a lot of time talking to him during the season. I tell you what, he's on top of everything. So we'll be able to get a little better feel for what's going to happen with the Giants this year, with the loss to Swift, Burkett, and Mike Jackson, amongst others.
And that's in the dirt. 1 ball, 1 strike to Chris. 2 balls, 1 strike to Chris Wimmer. 1 out, nobody out. We're in the first inning here from Scottsdale. No score. A windy night a little earlier this afternoon. It was a ferocious wind blowing here across the desert, causing a lot of dust storms in the area. Broken bat right back to Martinez. Out number 2.
Well, I hope they have enough bats here to last through the night, John. Both of these pitchers are very similar. As I said, they move the ball around, and because of their motions, they have a tendency to get in on the hitter's hands a lot. I think you're going to see quite a few jam jobs before the night's over.
Here's Mark Leonard now. Giants fans are certainly very familiar with Mark Leonard. He's been up and down with the Giants numerous times in these last 5 or 6 years.
He's always had a good bat. We have not been able to find a position for him because he's not that good defensively. But he's been a pretty good hitter throughout his minor league career, and even while he was in the big leagues with the Giants, he hit pretty well.
Grew up 30 miles from San Francisco, but he was an A's fan as a kid. And then he went to the University of California at Santa Barbara down south, signed by the Giants, and still now lives in San Jose in the offseason. He's also been briefly with the Baltimore Orioles and back with the Giants organization. Last year, got into a handful of games with the Giants. There's that wind.
Well, no better place than to prepare him for Candlestick Park, John. Not quite as cold, but just as windy.
Just like July in Candlestick.
Candlestick.
Here. A pretty good wind blowing out toward right field. The ball was really carrying well out there. But you can see it around the outfield. I mean, there are trees just being blown all over the place. I think we had gusts of over 40 miles an hour here earlier today. You see those trees. That's a ball. And Leonard has coaxed a walk from Martinez and becomes the first base runner of the game. In fact, during batting practice, Keith Bodie, the manager of the Firebirds, was out there pitching batting practice. You know how they have a screen in front of the pitcher's mound to protect the pitcher from line drives, and they had the big batting cage around the home plate area. Well, he threw a pitch, and all of a sudden the wind knocked the screen over right on top of him. And then he pushed the screen back, and as he looked toward the plate, there was the batting cage rolling toward the mound. It was like a Stephen King novel out there. In fact, I think the name of the batting cage here is Christine, ironically. 0-1 the count to Rod Brewer, the former St. Louis Cardinal. He was one of the slickest fielding first basemen around, but he just never got a chance to play. They always had somebody who was a little bit of a bigger bat playing in front of him.
Well, he played in Japan last year for the Seibu Lions, John.
Seibu lost the series to the Tokyo Giants.
But he helped them get into the World Series, so I guess he accomplished what they brought him over there.
And the wind holding that one up. Caught by Snyder. Is that Corey Snyder? He'll be coming up third in the next inning. And Dusty Baker will be coming in here when we get grassy berm out beyond left field here at Scottsdale Stadium. And it's like you can have a picnic while you're watching a ball game here. Also an area out beyond right field the same way. Bring the kids. I kind of like that, Joe.
Yeah.
I think all these new ballparks should build an area like that.
Well, this one's very nice. It's nice, matted grass out there, soft grass. I sit out there a couple of times.
Yeah, and right when your manager was looking for a pinch hitter, too.
Exactly.
Where's Joe? Yeah, in fact, speaking of managers, the San Francisco Giants will commence their actual big league exhibition schedule here Thursday. And Dusty Baker, the manager of the Giants, has welcomed all of the big leaguers back to camp. Arky Sinfranco facing Sergio Valdez. No score, second inning. And it's ball one. And Dusty Baker has joined us here in our Sunday night baseball booth. Dusty, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Man, this is the longest spring training for you and all the other guys in history, isn't it?
It's a long time. I tell you what's so long about it. Oh, double down the line.
That's Sinfranco, who's a lot of big league experience. Sinfranco will go back to first as the left fielder Brent Cookson got it back. Arky not running too well.
That was a double.
That was a great play by our left fielder.
Oh, yeah.
That was a double for Dusty Baker. He smashes the ball inside the bag, and as Dusty said, there should be a double. Good attempt there by Gary Scott, but the ball goes down the line into foul territory.
Well, you know, it was a little strange having 2 spring trainings, having to come back. Even stranger was being away from your home for so long.
Right.
You know, you're away from home 9 out of 10 weeks. That's a long time to be away from home. But I'm glad all the guys are in, and you know, the guys are excited about coming back to work because the guys are chomping at the bit.
Now, one of the issues that people have wondered about was, of course, with the replacement players and with the union being out on strike. Coming back now with the big league players, and you and your coach have been working with the replacements, if that has created any bad feelings or anything, created any problems for people like yourself?
No, well, I haven't seen any. You know, I haven't seen any bad feelings towards us because most of the guys on our team, I explained the situation to them. They understood the situation, and I talked to most of the guys weekly to find out how they were doing, how their minds, you know, were responding to the situation. At the same time, you know, how their bodies were staying in shape. And so, like, I haven't seen any backlash repercussion. I've heard of a few things happening because we do have a few replacement players on our Phoenix team here, so I'm sure that's going to take a little while to sort of subside the ill feelings between each other.
Craig Colbert is the hitter, the catcher. Nobody out, runner at first, second inning, no score. Dusty Baker is here with us. Also, Dusty, the Giants, and you mentioned it's nice to have all the guys back. Well, they're not all back. I mean, John Burkett's with the Marlins, and Billy Swift is with the Colorado Rockies. Some of the guys you'd like to have back are not back.
Well, you know, which is the nature of this year. It seems like there are a lot of strange things happening this year. Guys not being offered arbitration, guys being traded, and all sort of things. Each team has a new face, looks like, this year. So I definitely miss them. You know, I talked to Billy Swift the other day. John Burkett came by the stadium. Mike Jackson called me last night. And so, you know, they're a different uniform, but you know, these guys meant a lot to me because they were my first and original team. And as a manager, you never forget your first team. But at the same time, being in the game as long as I have, you realize that changes do come. And sometimes you don't like them, but that's the way it goes.
Well, what about the Giants this year? I mean, how good a ball club as Corey Snyder comes up, Colbert having struck out, one out, one on. I mean, how good can the Giants be without those 2 real horses and one of your top relievers?
Well, right now you don't really know. You know, we've replaced them with guys that we feel are capable. You know, you don't know if they're going to be as good as the guys that they're replacing, but at the same time, you know, you have to make the best of the situation. You know, we signed Trevor Wilson, we signed Leiter from Mark Leiter from the Angels. We signed Terry Mulholland yesterday, and so, you know, we at least have replaced them in bodies, and we feel that these are quality guys. And my job and my staff's job is to get the best out of these guys and make them believe in themselves that, hey, man, we can win with no matter who we put on the field.
Let me ask you a question, Dusty. Speaking of spring training, with the shortened spring training, are you guys doing double duty, or what are you doing to try to make up for this short spring training?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't think you can do double duty because you'll end up breaking down guys. And the worst thing that can happen right now is to have an injury-plagued spring training because these guys will never be in shape. You know, they'll be behind the whole season. So right now we're spending more time on baseball skill work than we are on actual conditioning. You know, usually the first couple weeks in spring training, you're doing a lot of conditioning, but we're conditioning after practice. We're running them. We're very conscious of sore ankles and hamstrings and quads. And so right now we're just trying to get as fundamentally sound as we can in a short period of time.
Third baseman Gary Scott, second one, and too late back at first as the runner Sinfranco ran right into the second baseman Wimmer there. Well, we're talking with Dusty Baker, the manager of the Giants, as Snyder is safe at first on the force out. And we're talking about his Giants of '95. And let's take a look at maybe the way the Giants might look out on the field. Does that look right to you, Dusty? Barry Bonds in left, Darren Lewis center, and you just signed Glenn Allen Hill today. You think he's going to move in out there in right field?
Well, we hope so. That's why we signed him. You know, he's a guy that I don't think that he's ever reached his full capabilities as a player yet. And I think his best years are ahead of him. He can run. He has a potent bat. The ball jumps off his bat. And, you know, right now, you know, we're excited to have him. I tell you, it looks pretty good to me on the screen.
Matt Williams at third, Royce Clayton at short. Robbie Thompson. Is Robbie Thompson healthy? Is he looking good?
Robbie's looking very good. He's looking strong. You know, it doesn't seem like he has any problems with his arm. It's up to us to sort of monitor Robbie because, you know, he's the kind of guy that's going to go all out, and that's the only way he knows. So we're going to have to take it easy with Robbie and sort of spell him sometime.
Ruben Smiley is the hitter with 2 down. And Corey Snyder at first base. No score in this game. We're in the second inning. And quickly, it's 0-2 now. Is J.R. Phillips going to be your first baseman?
Well, right now, J.R. is our first baseman. I feel that he's deserved the chance to play. Last year, you know, he didn't make the team, and he came up, and we sent him back, and he says, Dusty, what do you want me to do? And I said, hey, look, I want you to go down there, hit 300, and get your act together so when you come back, you're here to stay. And that's exactly what he did. He came down and hit 300 on the nose. So this year I might give him another task. Say, hey, man, hit me about 25, 30 home runs. See if he can do it.
Well, you need it. I mean, you need somebody. You had Strawberry for a while last year, and the ball club took off hitting behind Williams and Bonds. Now Strawberry is gone, and you need that guy. I mean, it seems like that turned your whole club around, having a top slugger behind the big 2.
Well, you know, anytime you have 3 potent bats in your lineup, that's going to be tough to escape all 3 of them. Right now, we don't know exactly where JR is going to be in the lineup. You know, Glenn Allen Hill may bat 5th, but we don't really know right now. We'll just have to wait and see.
All right. That's it for the Las Vegas Stars. No score. Dusty Baker here with us. We'll be back with Dusty in the game. Part of the action here at Scottsdale Stadium in this minor league ballpark is entertaining the kids even during the game. Down the right field line, this is the kids' corner.
And these are here for your children's entertainment.
Thanks. Bringing the kids out. A lot of fun. Everybody enjoys themselves.
Well, now, John, I see why the game has changed so much. Kids used to come watch the game. Yeah. Now they're riding ponies. Yeah, during the game.
Well, maybe you got 3 kids, Joe, and 2 of them want to see the game, and the 3rd one wants to go ride a pony, right?
Okay.
This way you can take care of all of them at the same time. Parents appreciate it. We got Dusty Baker here with us as we go to the last of the second inning. Brent Cookson on the Giants at AAA ball club, the Firebirds, leads it off, and then Gary Scott and Clay Bellinger will follow against Jose Martinez. No score in the second inning. So, Dusty, with all of the chaos going on in baseball right now, I mean, is it hard to get a handle on just what your ball club is going to look like eventually? I mean, a week from now, you might assign 3 guys, or who knows what all might still happen.
Well, you know, believe it or not, replacement baseball helped me a lot as far as, like, trying to formulate a new team and guys you don't know and trying to get them together in a lineup and try to, you know, get a pitching rotation with guys you've never seen pitch before. Right now, what I'm trying to do is just try to figure out where everybody belongs on the team. You know, where should a guy be a long reliever or a short reliever, or should a guy be a stopper or a setup man? And that's the toughest thing right now when you have new personnel that you don't know, and you hate to experiment it at the start of the season and waste ball games, because, you know, you end up losing the season by 1 or 2 games, and then you look back upon the games in April, it costs you the pennant possibly.
And that's a base hit, by the way, for Brent Cookson, and now Gary Scott is coming up. Cookson over at first.
Question there, Dusty. You spoke about 1 game. I go back to your first year as a manager, and you know, you lost to the Atlanta Braves by 1 game. We actually did the final game there in Los Angeles, and I was wondering, what has been the toughest decision you've had to make in your 2 years as manager?
Probably start Solomon Torres that last game of the season.
That's what I thought. I was going to ask you that day. Yeah.
Well, I prayed on it that night. I mean, I was like really, really struggling with it because I didn't know what to do, and I prayed on it, and that was the answer that I got, and that's the answer I went with.
Well, I mean, hey,
didn't work out, but that's the answer I got.
As they say, you could have had Sandy Koufax. He's lost a couple of games too. You know, on any given day, anyone can win. It's a good point, but I always wondered. I thought that might have been your toughest decision in the 2 years.
Yeah, that was tough, especially in your first year of management.
Right. Right.
Now, Dusty, as we're down here in Scottsdale and you're getting the ball club ready, And all of a sudden, it starts to feel like the old days. It feels like a normal year. You've got the big leaguers. You're getting them ready to go. You're going to play the schedule. People starting to get excited about your prospects and when are the Dodgers coming in and all that kind of stuff. And yet, we all know that it's not business as usual because the fans maybe have been abused here and have been abused for these past few months. Are the Giants making any sort of concessions to going to the players saying we've got to win these people back and let's work extra hard? Is there any thought being given to that? That one is clubbed into left field. The wind held it up a little bit. It's a double for Gary Scott.
Well, to answer your question, the Giants haven't really discussed it right now. Peter McGowan's coming down next week to address this to the ball club here. My job is actually to get us to play well, to have a good product on the field. And I believe sincerely that if we have a good product and win, people will come to the ballpark. And that's what my job, consists of, is try to get the best team on the field and get the most out of these guys so that we can have a good product to play daily.
Well, one of the things I read, Dusty, is that some of the players around baseball, especially in Florida, are spending more time with the fans, than they used to. Used to just go out and do your work and keep going. Now they're taking time to go over and say hello to the fans, maybe, and I think that's a good idea.
Well, I think it's a great idea because we definitely need the fans. Without any fans, there's really no baseball. But, we have to work hand in hand together, management and the players, in some kind of way, get the game back on track, in some kind of way get all the bad feelings and animosity of the past and leave it in the past, and let's go forward and get something, positive for the present and the future.
Yeah, I've been glad to, kind of heartened to have read some comments the last week or so. I know Len Dykstra with the Phillies, Dave Hollins, his teammate, among others, even Matt Williams, I think, with your ball club, talking about the realization that they've got to kind of reach out a little bit to the fans and bring them back to the game. That's a base hit for Clay Bellinger. And the throw-in cut off. 2 runs have scored. Cookson and Scott. And in, or wait a minute, just Cookson scored. Scott got only as far as the third base. He, I guess, thought maybe Snyder was going to catch that ball, and it's a single for Bellinger. It is 1-0 for the Phoenix Firebirds.
Pretty good pitch here by Martinez. That pitch is down and away, and he just gets it off the end of the bat, loops it into left field. Corey Snyder can't make the catch. Scoring from third base is Cookson, but you can see that throw comes back in. Scott has to go back to third, so runners at first and third now with no one out.
Well, everybody knows Corey Snyder's reputation too of having a great arm.
Right.
And that's one reason why he put on the brakes so quickly.
This is Doug Mirabelli, the catcher out of Wichita State. Runners at first and third, nobody out. A run is in already. So do you anticipate the fans will be back, Dusty?
Well, eventually, I think. The fans that I'm worried about mostly are the young people, the kids, because everybody thinks that the kids, the parents bring the kids out to the ballpark, but I think that the kids bring the parents out, even though the parents drive and pay for the tickets. And I'm just hoping that we haven't lost, the next generation fans, because if we lose the next generation fans, it's going to be a long time before we get them back. So I'm just hoping that this is a great year for baseball. Very exciting. We have the 3 divisional races now, and then at the same time the wild card team that was never tested last year. And I'm just hoping that this will be one of the greatest years in baseball. We needed, the fans needed, and I know I definitely needed it because I was getting into it last year.
Yeah. Well, now,
you were becoming a manager last year. First year, hey man, you didn't know how tough it was. You thought it was easy. Everything you did turned to gold. But last year, really, I told people in the middle of the season, I thought you did a better job managing last year than you did before because you had to overcome a lot of adversity.
Yeah, well, I agree with that all the way, Joe. The first year, I thought I had to bite his touch.
Right.
And, but last year with all the injuries, especially to your pitching staff, you lose a Billy Swift and a Mike Jackson and Rod Beck, and we lost, Kevin Rogers and Willie McGee and Robbie Thompson. I mean, you really have to think and have to manage and have to have a different lineup every day.
And you were still closing in.
Well, in my mind, we were closing in, about to overtake them.
Right.
if only it hadn't been for the strike. Into left center field, diving and making the catch is the center fielder Ruben Smiley. Tagging and scoring from third is Gary Scott. Back to first, Clay Bellinger. And Ruben Smiley out there having to deal with the wind. Dealt with it rather nicely. It looked like he might be shaken up a little bit out there.
Well, see, he played in this ballpark before, too. He was a former Giant that was taken off our roster as a 6-year free agent. So, you know, Ruben was a guy that we didn't really want to get away, but, you know, just can't keep everybody all the time. That's a great play.
That was a great play, and you can see that he did make the catch. Got the glove down underneath it. Fine play there by Smiley.
2-0 now for Phoenix. And here is this Sergio Valdez, the pitcher. Bellinger still at first, now with 1 away in the inning. 3 straight hits to start the inning. Cooks and Scott and Bellinger now the sacrifice fly, and a great catch. And the bunt by Valdez. Jose Martinez to Bream, the second baseman, covering. And down to second goes Bellinger. We're talking with Dusty Baker here in Scottsdale. His Giants will open their exhibition season on Thursday without John Burkett, without Billy Swift, without Mike Jackson. And what do you think? Does this look like the possible Giants opening day starting rotation, Dusty?
Where'd you get that?
I snapped my fingers and it just appeared on the screen. It's
That's
incredible.
pretty close. You know, all except
the resources we have at Sunday Night Baseball.
Well, that's real close. All except Mark Leiter. We haven't really made a decision yet if he's going to be our 5th starter, or Solomon Torres, or Dan Carlson. Depends how, you know, how these guys pitch in spring training. But the rest of them are pretty close.
And Mark Leiter has always had a good arm and.
Well, see, I've never seen him pitch before. I've relied on recommendations from other people. I've talked to some guys in the American League that faced him or played, you know, with him, and they said he has a tremendous sinker, a nice fork ball, and a pretty good slide piece.
So in the West of the National League now, I mean, some people might think that the Padres could be favored. Some think maybe the Rockies with their new signings.
Well, I think it's going to be a tough period. You know, the Dodgers are looking good, too. You know, a lot of people discount them. They've had the Rookie of the Year the last 3 years in a row, and everybody's picking Billy Ashley this year again. So it all depends, you know, who comes into camp in the best shape, which teams, you know, sustain the least amount of injuries, and at the same time, the team that plays the best and most consistent baseball.
Oh, you guys always say that in the springtime.
Well, I believe that.
Dusty, I think this is one of those years where you usually say you can't win the pennant in April. In May, I think this may be one of the years where that's a possibility. If you get off to a great start, who knows?
See, I agree with you, Joe. Just like the Reds got off. The Reds got off to that 9-0 start, and then
in 1990,
back. Exactly,
the last time we started late.
The same way. So,
and they had a strong bullpen that was a big factor for them.
Correct, especially early.
The first 3-4 weeks, guys are going to go 5 innings tops, right? I mean,
you got it. Man, you sound like a manager.
John does his managing at times.
Just remember. I remember seeing Brett Saberhagen opening day in Kansas City, 1990. Pitching a usual Brett Saberhagen game, looking great. But after 100 pitches, and even then they thought, man, that's more than we thought.
Right.
He was gone, 6 innings. Then they went to their bullpen, and the bullpen got clobbered. And it happened to a lot of teams. And Saberhagen ended up getting injured that year. Hershiser got hurt that year. There were some pitchers really got hurt, and some of them thought it was because of the shortened spring.
Well, that's what I think too. I'd be interested to see how many guys actually got hurt. In that year, you know, especially star players, guys that might have hurt their backs, or guys that pulled hamstrings. You know, not career-ending injuries, but just injuries for guys that missed most of the season.
I'll have that for you tomorrow. We have our crack staff get on that.
All right, thank you, Joe.
The computer has all that in it.
Calvin Murray has just walked, so the runners at first and second. 2 down. Here is Chris Wimmer. He's the second place hitter. 2 runs in for the Firebirds. They lead 2-0. Jose Martinez, the pitcher. Dusty Baker is here with us. Dusty, is Atlanta now clearly the top team in the National League? And they're in the. You don't have to worry about beating them in your division any longer, but
well, but you still have to play them, and sooner or later there's a good chance the road's going to have to go through Atlanta or somewhere back there, you know.
Right to third. That's Steve Springer. That's the end. Dusty.
But to answer your question, I think the Reds have an outstanding team too. There are quite a few good teams.
All right, Dusty Baker, manager of the Giants. Folks, enjoying the sunshine here in the Valley of the Sun. We're in Scottsdale. Sunday Night Baseball, 1995, with some minor league action. A game that will count in the standings in the Pacific Coast League, however, as the big leaguers are just now getting to their spring training camps. And who was that? One of the replacement guys?
Well, he was from Texas, University of Texas.
Had a lot of guys coming in for those replacement teams, Joe. Now here we go into the 3rd inning, and Rico Rossi will lead it off against the right-hander Sergio Valdez. Valdez and the Firebirds ahead 2-0. But big leaguers now moving into the spring training camps for the shortened version of the spring camp, and a guy who looks very happy to be back and playing baseball is Andy Bennis, the ace right-hander of the San Diego Padres, who has stopped by to join us. Andy, welcome.
Thank you.
And am I right? Are you pleased to be back?
I'm ecstatic. After the last 2 years we've had in San Diego, we're real excited to be in camp, at least with an opportunity to do well in our division.
And some people think that with the big trade that Randy Smith was able to pull off with Houston, I mean, you've added Steve Finley and Ken Caminiti and just a host of very fine talent. As Rossi is retired, the ball caught by Calvin Murray, and there's one away. All of a sudden in the West, where there's no real dominant team, I mean, the Padres look like they could be in the running.
Well, we're not picked to finish 6th or 7th in a 4-team division, so that's good. They had a couple other teams thrown in there in front of us the last few years, but we're excited because we've had so much trouble catching the ball the last few years. And with Caminiti at third and Cedeno short and Finley in center, we have 3 very good defensive players, so obviously our pitching staff's excited.
How do you feel about the fact that the last couple of years everyone wanted Andy Bennis? They were talking trade and looked like you were going to follow, you know, the Griffs and everyone else out of town. Now it has to be great to be there knowing that, hey, you do have a chance of competing, and I'm sure you want to stay in San Diego.
Yeah, the last few years have been kind of tough, but
that's a broken bat, caught at third by Scott. Jose Martinez out number 2. Go ahead, Andy.
At the same time, you just want to be in a situation where you can do well, and no amount of money is going to make you happy when you're out there getting your brains beat in every 5 days. So I'm excited. I think it all starts at the top, and we have some great owners now, and they're excited to be here. And I think the fans in San Diego have a great opportunity to see a much better product this year.
Billy Bean, the leadoff hitter, sharply hit to Rod Brewer. And that's it for Las Vegas. 3 up and 3 down. Phoenix is out front 2-0 after 2.5. Andy Bennis here with us. We'll be back. Pacific Coast League action tonight on Sunday Night Baseball. Phoenix 2 and Las Vegas 0 as we head to the last of the 3rd inning. Mark Leonard, Rod Brewer, and Brent Cooks in the 3, 4, and 5 hitters coming up for Phoenix. And Andy Bennis, the ace right-hander of the San Diego Padres, has stopped by the booth to join us. And we were just talking while we were off the air there. And for a brief time after the owners had implemented their new system for a while, you had become a restricted free agent and actually had the ability to negotiate with other teams for a while. Did you almost sign somewhere?
Well, it was interesting because I did talk to a few teams, but at the same time, you have to wonder what their commitment was as far as trying to sign me, because they knew I wasn't able to sign. There was a signing freeze, so I could kind of talk to them, but I wasn't able to sign a contract. But I'm excited to be back in San Diego, and I think the prospect of us having a good year is obviously much better than it has been.
So nothing big happened, but I mean things were close, I guess, with guys like Ken Hill and Marquise Grissom in Florida and John Whitland in Boston during that period where they became restricted free agents for a brief time.
Yeah, I think the restricted free agency is something the players don't really like, because in the NBA there hasn't been that much movement. But one of the comments made by the general manager about the restricted free agency is that the NBA doesn't need starting pitching. So, so that's why there were a lot of those starting pitchers that were looking to move teams, and there was a lot of action going on.
Are you doing anything differently this spring training than you did in the past because of the shortness?
No, I don't think so. I think the teams will be pretty careful with their starters, well, with any of the pitchers, but we just have to kind of ease into it.
High pop-up here, the wind really creating problems tonight, but the ball caught by Scott Breen, the second baseman, and Mark Leonard, who walked his first time, is retired for out number 1. One away in the 3rd, and Rod Brewer, guy you faced a few times, I'm sure, Andy, coming up for Phoenix.
I faced him when he was in St. Louis. It's interesting to watch the game. Billy Bean's a good friend of mine, and he's also the team barber, so we'll be excited when he gets back to playing with us.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, how much have you worked out in the off season?
I was able to throw. We had probably 10 to 15 guys that worked out at a local high school, and we had a couple catchers, so that was nice. We could throw off the side in the bullpen. So I probably threw 5 or 6 times there and was able to play catch in the outfield. So I feel like I'm pretty well along. It's not like we're anybody starting from scratch. So
but, I mean, there's a concern now about Because, I mean, you are such a key man in the Padres rotation. Concern about trying to do too much too soon where you could hurt yourself when you don't have as much time as you ordinarily would?
I don't think anybody in our organization is going to be pushing us too hard to I think, you know, especially with the expanded rosters, we should have 13 or 14 pitchers. So I don't think they'll push us too much. But I think our guys will be ready to go 5 innings or so by opening day. Hopefully more.
Well, we're talking with Andy Bennis of the San Diego Padres. What do you think, Andy? Does that look like a possible starting 5 for your Padres?
Oh, my goodness. I don't know. It's hard to say. We've signed Fernando and Bill Kruger, and we got Brian Williams in a trade, and we signed Willie Blair the other day.
Well, we know you're in there.
Seems like they keep adding
You're in
pitchers.
there.
I think we have about 30 pitchers right now, so they have a big group of guys to select from.
I think that you're in there, and I think Joey Hamilton's in there. Fernando, they signed him with all these incentives based on starts. Maybe Sanders will be in there instead of Williams or something like that, I guess. But
it's kind of hard to say right now, but we do have a good group of pitchers. I feel like we'll have a very good pitching staff, and you know, they wanted to build our team around pitching and defense, but I think we'll have plenty of hitters.
Well, that's Brett Cookson retired, and that is the inning. 3 up and 3 down. Andy Bennis, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All the best. Mark McGuire will be joining us shortly. 2-0. The Stars nothing. That's Phoenix and Las Vegas, respectively, from Scottsdale. Join ESPN tomorrow afternoon at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific for continuing coverage of the America's Cup. Tomorrow's race features Young America taking on Mighty Mary in the opener of the round-robin Defender Finals. Dennis Conner's Stars and Stripes will be in action on Tuesday when they take on Young America, also at 4 Eastern. That's the America's Cup tomorrow through Thursday at 4 Eastern on ESPN. Hey, and yeah, this is the Scottsdale version, a landlocked version maybe of the America's Cup with some of the youngsters, and they have things like this going on always between the innings here. And everybody tries to have, as Harry Carey has always said, fun at the old ballpark. This is Scott Bream, the second place hitter for Las Vegas, as we go to the 4th inning facing Sergio Valdez. 2-0. Phoenix is ahead. Well, we've been able to visit with Dusty Baker, the manager of the Giants, in the last inning. Andy Bennis, the big right-hander of the San Diego Padres. Now the big slugging first baseman of the Oakland Athletics has stopped by, Mark McGuire. And now, Mark, you look great, but are you feeling great?
Yeah, finally, I'm finally feeling good, and I think I'm over my foot problems, and I'm in the best physical shape that I've been in my life. So I'm looking for a great year. I know a lot of people out there forgot about me, so it's going to be great to come back and do the things that people are used to Mark McGuire doing.
Rod Brewer over to Valdez covering, and Scott Bream is out number 1 here in the 4th inning. I mean, 2 straight years now you had the heel problem. I mean,
well, the first year, you know, when I toured, they went in there and they took 30% out and came back and ended up tearing the last part of it. So, you know, they went in there in August and took the rest of it. So right now I really have no arch right there, so I have arch supports in there, and went through an extensive running program through our conditioning coach Bob Alejo and got myself in great physical shape.
But now coming back from the strike, Steve Springer with a ground ball to short. That's Bellinger. Nice play. Springer's open 2 down in the 4th inning. I mean, coming back from those 2 years, I mean, I guess you'd like to have a little longer in spring training to get ready for the season, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but, you know, I've had a lot of time to get in shape and to swing the bat, so, you know, I feel good. You know, I've been playing ball long enough, so, you know, it's just a matter of getting there and seeing the ball and swinging the bat.
You know, I've seen a new Mark McGuire this year, and the one that I like, one that's kind of speaking out, taking more of a leadership role. No, you know, one of the things that I think you're going to find when you become a star is that you can't sit in the background all the time.
Yeah, well, I've had a lot of good guys to learn from. You know, Reggie Jackson, Don Baylor, Carney Lansford, Dave Stewart, which, you know, we just got back. So, you know, I'm entering my 9th plus year here in the big league. So, you know, it's time for myself and Terry Steinbach to step up and you know, be leaders on our team.
The batter is Arky Sanfranco. He has the only hit for Las Vegas in this game. 2-0. Phoenix is out front. Mark McGuire is here with us. Well Mark, one of the things I was reading a little outspoken about was going out and getting Mike Gallego.
Yeah, that's one hole that we do have. We have a hole at second base. You know, when Mike left us 3 years ago, we were like, I think, first or second, turning double plays, and ever since he left, we haven't really been in the top 5, I think. So, you know, he's a key person to get.
Mark McGuire here with us. We'll have more with Mark. We're going to the last of the fourth inning here. 2-0 Phoenix over Las Vegas. There's some kids in a red rope eating contest. All right, kids. Here we go to the last of the fourth inning, and Gary Scott, who doubled in the midst of a 2-run second inning rally that has Phoenix leading this game 2-0. He's facing Jose Martinez. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan, and we're being joined by Mark McGuire. Now, Mark, we asked Dusty Baker about this from his standpoint as a manager, and we'll ask you now. The replacement players in camp. It's knocked down at third base by Sinfrocco, but no play until they hit for Scott. Oh, no, I want Joe to analyze this play for us before you answer.
Oh, this play?
Yeah.
You know, Gary Scott a few years ago, John, he was a phenom in spring training. The Cubs thought he was the next Ron Santo. Nice diving stop there by Springer, but no play.
All right. I said Sinfrocco. Sinfrocco's at first base.
I know, but
Springer's at
third. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
We're in spring training.
You picked me up.
You have to remember, we're in spring training.
Well,
we haven't done a game in 8 months.
When he's in San Diego, he used to play third when he...
You're right.
All right, now here's Bellinger. And that's caught by the second baseman, Bream, with Scott holding it first. But getting back to Mark McGuire now. The replacements were in the spring training camps. The manager, Tony La Russa, the coaches, all were there working. Will there be any carryover, do you think, with you guys all there between your manager and yourselves? Is there any bad feelings?
No, actually, we had a great meeting the other day with Tony, and Tony, you know, talked about his opinions on what's going on and how he felt and how excited he is to have us all back. And I don't see anything as far as the coaches or managers around the league. I think they were put in a very, very tough decision, you know, to do, and they had to do the best of their ability, you know, to coach these kids that came out. But now, you know, the big boys are back, and we're ready to play.
I like it when one of the big boys.
Yeah,
I like boys. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Mark. Have the players given any thought to their relationship with the fans? Are you going to be doing anything different personally, you know, to help the fans realize that you haven't forgotten about them?
Well, you know, definitely, we have to do something. I think every player is different. You know, I've always said that if it's going to take an extra handshake, you know, to make somebody smile or to make somebody appreciate the game, or if it takes, you know, autographs are a big, big thing in baseball. If it's going to take an extra autograph, why not? Is get the fans back into the game, because after all, you know, the fans come see us play. We want to feel, you know, it's always fun. It's a lot more funner to play in a full stadium than an empty stadium. So
True.
We look forward to them come back and to watch us play.
Well, I think that's a good attitude.
Oh, yeah. I'd rather play in front of 60,000 instead of 2,000.
Like to see all the players take that to heart, too.
Well, I hope they do. I think we all have to realize that. You know, this, you know, what both sides have done to the game, we have to get back together. So we'll try our best to get everybody back.
Now, speaking about that, the big leaguers are back. The strike is over. The season will start. And yet, there's still been no agreement made. The war is still ongoing with a brief truce, I guess you might say. Is it possible that there could be a strike called for sometime later in the season?
I really don't think so. I think there's an excellent chance for both sides coming to the happy medium and get this contract done and everybody be happy.
I think once the season starts.
Runner goes. And this is Springer. And he gets Mirabelli at first base with Scott taking second, out number 2.
I think once the season starts, not only will the players be happy to be back and realize what they missed, but I think the owners will too. I think everyone involved in baseball realizes what a disaster this was and how much this has hurt the game of baseball. And I really believe, like you do, that there will be an agreement. I really believe that. I believe that some kind of way that everyone will get together and make an agreement, because no one wants this to happen again.
Well, the bottom line, there has to be an agreement. Right. It has to get done. And, you know, we'll do our effort to get it done.
Mark McGuire, the Oakland Athletics. And, Mark, what about your Athletics now this year? They've lost Bobby Witt. how good can your ball club be?
Actually, you know, it's looking pretty good. You know, there's a couple extra free agents. My glasses, try my glasses on. But there's a couple guys out there that I know Tony and Sandy are talking to. You know, Stu came in today. Honeycutt came in today. You know, last year we had the turn back the clock year. It looks like this year's going to be the real turn back the clock year, bring everybody back. They're thinking they're talking to Bernd Campaneris, try to bring him back. But
hey, well, Reggie looks in pretty good shape.
He always looks in good shape. But anyways, you know, I think we look pretty good. Like I said earlier, second base, you know, is a little hole. You win championships being strong up the middle. We're strong behind the plate with Terry Steinbach. We're strong with Mike Borick. We're strong with Stan Javier in center. Second base, if we get Mike Gago, it's just going to make us even a tougher team.
Runner at third base now with 2 down. Sergio Valdez, the pitcher, with a 1-ball, 1-strike count. He is, with his ball club, leading 2-0 here. And the count is now 1 ball and 2 strikes. So Mark McGwire feeling healthy for the first time in a couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, are you, do you have some numbers in mind you're looking to put up this year?
Well, I just get back in the swing of things. You know, it's tough to sit back and watch the Frank Thomases and the Ken Griffeys and do the thing they're doing, and knowing that if I'm doing my thing and playing my games, that I can be right there with them. So, you know, I'm healthy, and if I play the 144 games, my numbers will be there.
Mark McGwire. Mark, thanks for coming in with us.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys.
Good luck this year.
All right.
Mark McGwire will continue 2-0 Phoenix. Sunday night baseball from Scottsdale, Arizona. John Miller, Joe Morgan, back for our 6th season with ESPN. Sunday night baseball. And next Sunday, we will actually have some big league action. We've got the Boston Red Sox and Texas Rangers on our schedule, and then a Grapefruit League game from Fort Myers, Florida, 8 Eastern, so we hope you'll join us then. And, of course, there's no exhibition action going this weekend, so we were originally scheduled to be in Oakland with Detroit and the Athletics. That wiped out with the strike, and so we're bringing you this AAA ball game with some of the big league people who are in the area for spring training to talk about some of the various stories because of this very odd, truncated spring.
I thought we were going on at 7:55, not 8 o'clock.
Next week? Oh, that's 7:56. Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
I don't want anybody to miss.
7:56.
Yeah, not 8 o'clock.
Going on a little early.
A little early.
The best thing is to catch baseball tonight, and then it rolls right into us. 7:56. Will Clark, Juan Gonzalez, the Rangers. Jose Canseco, Mo Vaughn, the Red Sox. 7:56. That's 4:56 Pacific time.
I wonder how they're going to keep Jose Canseco in the ballpark in Boston. Every pitch, his fly balls will go out of the ballpark.
And he's a fly ball hitter.
And he's in great shape. I saw him on television. He looked great.
Craig Colbert is gone, out number 1 here in the 5th inning. He's now 0 for 2. We're at Scottsdale Stadium, one of the concession stands. Back at the ballpark. And the big leaguers will be heading north. April 25th will be the one big opening night game, which we will have exclusively right here on ESPN. The Dodgers and the Marlins from Joe Robbie Stadium. And everybody else will get started the next day, the 26th.
Looking forward to that because, as you mentioned, as Dusty Baker said, the Dodgers have a very fine ball club. They've had the last 3 rookies of the year, and they're trying to make it a 4th with Billy Ashley.
And they're going with the young guys now.
Yes.
With Ashley left, they're not going to re-sign Brett Butler. Here's our opening night game, 7:30 Eastern. Mike Piazza and the Dodgers, Gary Sheffield, Jeff Conine, the Marlins, Raul Mondesi of the Dodgers, Ashley trying to become the 4th consecutive Dodger Rookie of the Year. And the Dodgers, Fred Clare says they're going to go with young guys this year. They're not signing any free agents.
Yeah.
Triple header on opening day, which will be the opener for everybody else. The Yankees and Rangers from Yankee Stadium at 1:30. The Mets and Rockies, the official debut of Coors Field in Denver. The Astros and the Padres. In fact, fans from those 2 cities won't know which team is which, really, because they made that huge trade. 12 players involved in that trade between the Astros and the Padres.
I wanted to ask Randy Smith, how difficult was it dealing with his father? Tal Smith is the president of the Astros. Bob Watson's the general manager.
Well, in In fact, we're going to get Randy in here later on, Joe, and you can ask him. Hold that question.
All right.
Corey Snyder down on strikes. Corey looking a little rusty right now. Ruben Smiley will come up now. 2 down, nobody on. There's that big trade. Now look what the Padres got. They got some stars. Ken Caminiti, Andujar Cedeno, Steve Finley, Roberto Pettit, a pretty good prospect. And Derek Bell goes to the Astros. Ricky Gutierrez, a shortstop. Pedro Martinez, pretty good left-hander. Phil Plantier, powerful outfielder. Craig Shipley had a fine season last year for the Padres.
Both teams got some good players that will fit in. I think San Diego needed the gloves more, as Andy Bennis mentioned, with Caminiti, Finley, and Cedeno. That's going to really help them in the field.
Ruben Smiley 0 for 1. We're in the 5th inning. 2-0. Phoenix ahead. It's Roberto Pettit, by the way. May end up here with Las Vegas once the spring is finished. That's the ironic thing. The 2 teams we're looking tonight, some of their better players are not yet here because they were on the 40-man rosters and have been out on strike. They're just getting to spring training with the big league clubs. That was one of the things I thought was ridiculous of that whole thing, Joe. Why wasn't there an agreement that minor league guys who'd never been to the big leagues, who were on the 40-man roster, should have been allowed to report to the minor league camps? We go to the last of the 5th, 2-0. It's one of the promotions they have here at the Scottsdale Stadium, some kind of a gigantic dice roll, and he wins. Oh, he rolled a 7.
So he won.
Wish I'd been in on that. Here's Calvin Murray, lead it off, last of the 5th. He's the leadoff hitter for the Phoenix Firebirds. He is fly to center and walked. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. 2-0. Phoenix out in front here. And we've got a guy who is an outstanding left-hander, first with the Oakland Athletics and then moved across the bay to San Francisco and had a great year there, and still in the Bay Area working with the Giants. And talking about Vida Blue. Vida, welcome to the telecast. A pop up to shallow center and caught out there by the shortstop Rossi. Murray is retired.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Joe.
Now, I want you to look at this. This is the 1972 World Series. You're on the mound facing Joe Morgan.
Oh, come on.
It's a 2-2 count. Okay, there's little Joe.
He was little then.
And there's that's Vida Blue. Now this is this pitch a strike?
Where was it?
Outside, Vida.
Where was it? No way.
And then the next one was ball 4.
Where was it? Jesus.
I figured you'd say that. It was outside.
Joe, I want that. I want that one.
Still bugging.
Who's the umpire?
It was American League
No,
umpire.
The National League umpire. I guarantee it was the
No, he had the
National League
chest
umpire.
protector on the outside.
So the American League umpire, okay.
Yeah.
And that's 20, almost 23 years ago. Still bugs you.
Yeah, I want that one.
Hey, Joe looked at that tape this morning. Let's look at slow motion.
Wait a
now.
minute, wait a
And
minute.
frame it. You got to frame
This is a
it.
2-2 pitch to Joe Morgan. Got a great eye now.
Yeah, but watch the catcher now. Watch the catcher.
He didn't move his
Watch the
mitt.
Here
catcher's
we go.
glove. Watch the catcher's
Fossey
glove.
did not move.
Watch the catcher's glove. Now watch him bring it back. Look, outside,
Joe,
outside.
it
Look
came
at it.
through the hitting
Outside,
zone.
outside.
You should have been swinging at that anyway.
How can you take that pitch?
That's
a
right.
good point.
I couldn't hit it.
Well, see, Joe had that thing already. If he didn't swing, it must not have been a strike. See, Vida?
Or if you couldn't hit it, take it. Maybe the umpire missed it too.
Maybe you'll get the call.
1 ball and 2 strikes as Chris Wimmer pops it up into shallow left. Corey Snyder, the left fielder. And that's out number 2. So, Vida, what are you doing now these days for the Giants?
I do community relations. That's a fancy name for PR, I guess, if you will.
Well,
But,
I mean, you got an important job this year in particular. Coming back
yes,
from the
I
strike.
do. And luckily for the Giants, we have a group of guys that are willing to go out and do all the community type stuff. I know Rod Beck for sure does a pediatric AIDS type program. He has a camp called Camp Sunburst, and I know he does a golf tournament for the March of Dimes. So I heard you guys talking earlier about how baseball itself overall as a whole needs to make amends to some of the ill feelings that were brought about during the strike lockout, if you will. And Rod Beck is a guy that I know I can always count on to do that type of stuff, as well as the rest of the Giants staff.
You know, Vida Blue's name always kind of lives in the annals of player versus owner relations, because back in the days when you were just bound to the team with no other options, you had one of the great years that anybody had for a long time, and then you got into a battle with Charlie Finley.
And Can I do my Charlie Finley?
Yeah.
As Charlie Finley said, Vita, pigs get fat and hogs go to market, you know. I said, but Mr. Finley, what about my raise, you know? And someone brought to my attention the situation where I got traded or sold to the Yankees, and Joe Rudy and Raleigh Fingers went to Boston, and they mentioned that it was worth $1.5 million. I said, I didn't get any of the money, though.
Yeah. Well, we want to ask you about that because you were involved in some really interesting things, as well as being a fine pitcher. Vita Blue here with us. 2-0 Phoenix after 5.
You wanted peanuts just like Grandma used to make. You know you gotta have some. You know you want it. You gotta have it.
That's,
No, you won't.
yeah. Well, send a couple up. He sells beer and red licorice ropes. Now, that's quite a combination.
Wow.
1 ball and no strikes. So we go to the 6th inning here. The batter is Rico Rossi, and Clay Bellinger, the shortstop, throws him out, and Las Vegas has 1 out with nobody on against Sergio Valdez, who has now retired 13 in a row. He's given up only 1 hit in this game. Vita Blue is here with us. Vita used to do it like this. Said you got a little more strikeouts than Sergio's getting here tonight.
Well, it doesn't matter how you do it, John. Going back to that Charlie Finley story, I found out that they don't pay you for strikeouts. They pay you for wins and losses, preferably for wins. And that's what I tried to concentrate and focus on. But
well, let's go back now to 1976. All right, free agency was coming in. Charlie Finley knew that although he had the best team in baseball for a number of years, now that you were all going to walk us. I mean, number one, he wasn't going to pay you.
Sure.
And number 2, nobody liked him. You guys couldn't wait to get out of there.
John, you're so right on, John.
Yeah. So now, all of a sudden, he sells. What, you, Joe Rudy, who else?
And Fingers to Boston, and I went to New York.
Okay. So Rudy and Fingers get sold. No trades involved. They just got talk about a fire sale.
Sold outright.
Yeah. And then you go to New York.
Right.
And then the commissioner stepped in and said, no, we can't have this kind of thing.
And Mr. Finley used to say, phooey. It rhymes with buoy all the time. They weren't the best of friends.
Bowie, the old commissioner, yeah.
And, you know, I was negotiating with the team, and you know, all of a sudden I get this lucrative offer based on what we had been talking about, the figures prior to that. And, you know, I go to the A's office, and I sign my contract before I can get home. The trade is announced over the radio. And
the sale that you sold?
Yeah, I mean the sale, not the trade.
Right.
And prior to me getting home and versus turning around and going back to the ballpark itself, I had gotten a telegram from the commissioner's office stating that I should stay put until further review.
All right. Now, of course, nowadays, all of a sudden, teams are, it seems like regularly, like the Expos now, the Royals. This could be 2, and it is a double play. Billy Beane hits into an inning-ending double play. Well, Vita, you're looking good. You survived all that, didn't you?
Billy, but hey, these were some quick innings. I didn't mean to give you guys a kiss of death saying it was a quick game.
Vita Blue now with the Giants. 2-0 Phoenix. It's part of the show here in the Pacific Coast League here at Scottsdale Stadium. They got him. Be sure to join ESPN 2 this summer for its inaugural season of baseball across America. The series will include up to 20 live minor league telecasts, including the AA and AAA All-Star games. It begins May the 4th when Buffalo hosts Iowa at 10:30 Eastern in the morning. The game will be played in the morning to accommodate 6,000 school kids who will attend on class field trips that day. That's Baseball Across America beginning May the 4th, live at 10:30 in the morning Eastern, and rebroadcast that evening at 7:30. And so many fans across America who follow the game at the minor league ballparks. We saw it firsthand when the strike started last year, Joe, and some beautiful ballparks in the minor leagues down. The big crowds. Here in the Coast League last year, the Salt Lake team drew more than 700,000 fans to their beautiful ballpark in Salt Lake. So you'll be able to follow those minor leagues on a national basis on The Deuce beginning May the 4th. The batter is Rod Brewer, the cleanup hitter for Phoenix, facing Jose Martinez, the right-hander, pitching for the Las Vegas AAA affiliate of the San Diego Padres, who have an attendance here tonight. Somebody very interested to watch this group. He's the general manager of the San Diego Padres, Randy Smith, who has joined us in the booth. Randy, welcome.
Thank you. And Randy, I wanted to ask you right away, how difficult was it to deal with your father and Bob Watson for making that trade?
Oh, nice.
Yourselves in Houston.
Nice catch by Smiley out there in center field, and that's one away. Brewer is retired.
Well, Joe, you know both those guys real well, so it was a lot of fun putting that deal together, and I think both clubs accomplished their objectives. We think we're strong favorites to win the West.
Well, I mean, why only 12 players, Randy?
That took long enough to put it together. I think if we'd done much more, we'd still be talking.
In case a lot of people may not know, Randy Smith, who's the general manager of the Padres, is the son of Tal Smith, who was general manager and now president of the Astros. He was general manager when I first went to Houston and played there. Now he's the president of the Astros.
Brent Cookson is the hitter now. One out, nobody on. So, Randy, I mean, you've seen it from both sides now. I mean, all of a sudden, we see the Montreal Expos having to get rid of their high-priced players, and something that you went through in San Diego soon after you became general manager there. But now, while it's happening in Montreal, in San Diego, it seems like more of a renaissance with new ownership. John Moore's owning the club. Larry Lucchino into actually on the day-to-day basis being the hands-on person. So is it truly a new era dawning in San Diego baseball?
Oh, definitely. It's as we were fond of saying, it's the new Padres, and you know we got a whole new outlook as far as marketing. Our payroll's gone up. We think we got a club that's going to contend if not win the West.
And if you develop some stars, keep them.
So ideally, that's exactly what we want to do. You're still going to have to manage your payroll. That's any small market club, but scouting and development's the way we're going to have to go and have a long-term plan.
Oh, he's got a super.
Well, as Cookson goes down on strikes, 2 down in the 6th inning. Phoenix leading 2-0 in this ball game. Talking with Randy Smith of the Padres. Now, what do you think, Randy? Does this look like a possible starting lineup for opening day for the Pods?
I tell you, that's nice to look at. We can't wait to run that out against the Astros on the 26th, and I guess you guys will be there too.
Now, that looks pretty solid everywhere. You get speed in the outfield. And, I mean, that left side of the infield looks outstanding.
Well, the big thing with the trade was our pitching really came along last year with the young arms. Our bats were pretty good. Our defense was terrible. And, you know, getting Cedeno and Finley and Caminetti, it certainly filled a lot of holes for us.
2 down, nobody on. Gary Scott, who has a double and a single. He's hit the ball right along that third base line 2 times in a row. And the count goes to 1-1 to him.
Let me ask you a question about the Homestead group in Florida. How are you scouting those players that are there, or what are the general managers doing about those players?
I think every club's handled it differently. I know some clubs have their scouts down there, and we have a guy in Florida as well. But really, most of these guys, you've seen them for several years, and they're well-known players. So it's not so much. It's just making sure they're healthy, more or less.
Now, with the Colorado Rockies, with these big signings they've made, and your ball club with such a different look to it all of a sudden. I mean, who do you favor in that National League West?
You're asking me. I favor us. But it's going to be fun in the West. I think every club's improved themselves and should be good baseball.
How about Colorado? I mean, how much better are they? Could the third-year Rockies contend for a division title?
Well, I know Gebb and Jerry McMorris have improved the club quite a bit with Walker and Swift, so we'll see.
Scott chasing the high one there, and it's 3 up and 3 down. We're heading to the 7th inning now. 2-0 Phoenix leading Las Vegas. Randy Smith with us. We'll be back with Randy in the game after this. Twilight time here in Scottsdale, Arizona, where the big leaguers in the Cactus League have arrived. They'll be starting to play the exhibition schedule on Thursday afternoon. And a man whose team will play not far from here in the Cactus League is with us. Randy Smith, general manager of the San Diego Padres. And Randy, we're talking about some of the things happening in baseball now. I mean, this is a chaotic, wild time, unlike anything ever before. There's really nothing to, I guess, to go by if you're a general manager. No precedent, because you've got the free agent signing season, negotiating season, the trading season, all happening while you're having a spring training that's about half its normal length.
This is definitely uncharted waters, but you know, I guess with the 8-month layoff, maybe all the activity is good for the game, get the fans interested again.
Right. Well, I think all of the incredible things that have been happening this last few days, with all these big names of trades and whatnot, except maybe in Montreal or Kansas City, has generated a lot of interest in baseball around the country.
Well, I think, you know, we were having a great year last year with the pennant races, the individual accomplishments, and we need to get back off to that start to get the fans back.
1 ball and 2 strikes now to Scott Bream, the second place hitter. 2-0. Bream's Las Vegas Stars trailing. Sergio Valdez pitching a 1-hitter. Shortstop Bellinger. And Bream is now 0 for 3. The only hit for Las Vegas, a second inning single by Arky Sinfraco. And the bullpen is getting busy. It's Long, the left-hander, and McFarland, the right-hander, getting ready in the Las Vegas bullpen. What about the short spring? We asked Andy Bennis about this. Keeping your pitchers from overextending themselves so that they don't get hurt.
Well, I think that's one place where, I mean, I think the big thing that's going to be important is long relief early in the season. I think in San Diego we got as much pitching depth as anybody, and it should be an advantage to us.
You know, sometimes, Randy, they say the best trades are the ones that aren't made. And I guess you're happy now that Andy Bennis is still around because, you know, you have a building block for this new Padre image that you're trying to set up there.
Well, he's a real horse. He's what's going to set up the rest of our rotation with Hamilton and Ashby and Scott Sanders and Fernando or Brian Williams in there. And those are all good arms that we like a lot.
1 ball, 1 strike to Springer, the third place hitter. We're in the 7th inning. Randy Smith, the Padres here with us. Got a new manager this year, Bruce Bochy.
I think Boch is going to do an outstanding job. I think he's got the perfect mentality. By the time it's all said and done, I think he's going to be one of the best there's ever been.
Bruce and I were teammates in Houston when your father was the general manager. And I agree with you, Bruce has a head for the game. And just in case, that was not a pun, but well, the joke is Bruce Bochy, I think, has about an 8 or 9 hat size.
He can definitely fill out a hat.
Yeah, but I didn't mean it that way. I just meant he had a head for the game, John.
Well, I'm sure Bruce didn't take it personally.
No, Bruce was my buddy.
2 down now. Another strikeout for Sergio Valdez. 2 down, nobody out of the 7th. And the man who's got the only Las Vegas hit of this game, Arky Sinfraco, is coming up. He was back in the 2nd inning. He was leading it off against Sergio Valdez in that inning. And this is the 1 hit.
Well, this is the one that Dusty Baker called a double, but it turned out to be a single by Sinfraco.
Arky got just the 1. Now, Randy, you make that huge trade with Houston. Are you done? I mean, is it possible you might add somebody else via trade or a free agent signing, something like that?
I think the one thing we like to do is add some experience to our pitching staff, and preferably from the left side. We did that last week with Fernando, and we're still looking to do a little bit more.
And I know that you have also with the new ownership some ideas on how to also market the club a little more widely down in Mexico even.
Well, I think you know, we've signed a working agreement with the Veracruz club down looking for players in Mexico. I think that's a start. We went out and signed Fernando, and I know Larry Lucchino's made that one of his priorities to tap into the Mexican market.
Caught at third by Gary Scott. Sergio Valdez is on a roll here for the Phoenix Firebirds. Randy Smith, good luck to you. All the best.
Thank you very much.
All right, Randy Smith, tell you about the Padres. 2-0 Phoenix after 6.5. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball from Scottsdale. 2-0 the Phoenix Firebirds of the Giants leading the Stars of the Padres. Coming up Wednesday on ESPN, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, NHL action as the New Jersey Devils visit the Washington Capitals. The Caps and Devils tied for second in the Atlantic Division with identical records. That's New Jersey and Washington. Wednesday night at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. Caps with that great red-hot goaltender, Jim Carey.
Jim Carey.
Now,
that's the guy in the mask?
Yeah, he wears a ferocious-looking mask.
Okay.
Yeah. This is Bruce Bochy, the new manager of the San Diego Padres. A little bit later, we get a piece of video, Bruce, showing you in action, getting blasted. So something for you to look forward to. A great memory.
When we were teammates.
I think Joe had this put on.
A guy named Rose.
Well, I had it put on because I said if he could have gotten the ball a split second sooner, he would have killed Rose. But we'll show you we're in a very vulnerable position.
Bottom of the 7th inning. Here's Clay Bellinger facing Jose Martinez. Martinez gave up 2 runs and 3 hits in the 2nd inning. And those are the only runs he's allowed. And all but one of the hits that he's allowed came in that inning. He's trailing 2-0 despite pitching a pretty Nice ball game here before a guy he'd like to be playing for, Bruce Bochy, manager at the big league level for the Padres now. So, Bruce, I mean, you pick up all of these players, and all of a sudden, the various shifts in power in the National League West, maybe you guys can make a run for it this year.
Well, I think we've really improved our situation. The one thing we really wanted to do is improve our defense. We think we did that with Caminiti and Finley in center field and Cedeno at short. I think we're pretty balanced in our division. And I think if you look at the other clubs, they're starting to improve their situation. So it should be a good battle. The one thing we wanted to do this year is get past that stage of trying to compete and hopefully contend this year.
One ball, 2 strikes to Bellinger here in the 7th inning. And down on strikes, 3 in a row for Jose Martinez. And they put out now at first base. The ball was dropped, so the out is recorded from 2 to 3. Now, we talked about that videotape, 1980, Game 4, 10th inning, tie ball game.
That's Bruce behind the plate.
And Pete Rose is going to head home. See, Joe Morgan is sort of the secondary relay man here. Throw is by Landisdorf. Oh, Bruce.
Those aren't good memories, I must admit.
Not for me either, Bruce. We were about a foot away from being in the World Series that year.
Yeah, the ball short hopped me, and I thought I had plenty of time, but it just, I got that tough hop there, and I stayed in front of home plate, and Pete, you know, he's that type of player, and I really thought he would hit me. I just couldn't come up with the ball, and you know, that series was so exciting. It really was a tough loss for all of us on the Houston side.
Yes, it was. They won the ball game 5-3 and then went on to win the series in Game 5 and go on to the World Series. That was, to my mind, one of the great league championship series ever played. And I think part of the reason was because it was a best-of-5.
Right. More exciting.
Where right away you got crucial games all the way through, whereas in a best-of-7 sometimes you don't hit a crucial game until Game 4. So,
well, we had so many crucial games toward the end there. You know, we went in L.A. 3 games up on them. We lost 3 straight. We had to play one more game to see who went to the playoffs, and that series was up and down. In that 5th game, I think we were up 5-2 in the 8th inning, and they came back and tied it, won it in the 10th.
Look at this. Sergio Valdez now has just as many hits as he has allowed in this game. In fact, he's got more total bases with the bat than he has allowed. He's given up only 1 hit, a single, and now he has hit a double. He's doing it all here tonight for the Phoenix Firebirds.
I'm sure Justy Baker's out there someplace watching this guy pitch.
Well, they need somebody, don't they? I mean,
and he can hit, too. And he flips the bat. He knows how to do that.
Now that'll bring up Calvin Murray, the leadoff hitter, and a chance to get an RBI for Calvin. 2-0, Phoenix ahead in the 7th inning. So Bruce, with the strike, and of course such a terrible thing for baseball, and especially for the baseball fans. Any speeches you'll give to your players, or any thought in the Padres organization about talking to the players about going that little extra to try and win the fans back?
Well, I think we have to. I think we've done some damage to the game, and it's up to us to win these fans back. And players need to make themselves, I think, a bit more available than they used to, and spend some more time with these fans. It's going to be up to us to get these fans back in the ballpark, and winning's part of it, but also just being ambassadors to the game and just getting out there and talking to them.
Do you get a feeling from any of your top players that they agree with you on that?
Oh, I think so. I think since the fans have been coming over to watch spring training, I've noticed they've been out there mingling with them and signing autographs, and you know, that's something that needs to be done right now.
Well, that's it. Murray pops out. 2-0 Phoenix after 7. Bruce Bochy, good luck in San Diego.
John, thank you very much. Joe, good seeing you again.
Yeah, my pleasure, Bruce.
Thanks for being with us. Bruce Bochy. We'll be back. The reddish hue on the beautiful, stark mountains surrounding the Phoenix area, the Valley of the Sun, as we head toward sunset here. What a spectacular sunset it's going to be. A windswept early evening here in Scottsdale. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. Glad to have you with us. The subject is baseball for a change rather than labor negotiations. And now taking center stage in our First Sunday night telecast is Sergio Valdez, a former major leaguer. He's been with both the Cleveland Indians and Montreal Expos, and he's got a masterpiece going here, a one-hitter. He has thrown now 68 pitches. He has allowed only 2 balls to be hit out of the infield. The single by Sinfranco in the 2nd inning and a fly ball to center by Rico Rossi in the 3rd inning. And he has just been rolling right along. He has only 1 walk allowed. Sergio Valdez, now a man who might be real interested in the performance put on by Valdez tonight, since Valdez is with the San Francisco Giants AAA ball club. This is caught in left by Brent Cookson, one of the hardest hit balls of the night against Valdez. Well, picked a good night to do it with his general manager of the San Francisco Giants in attendance, Bob Quinn, who has stopped by the booth here with us. So what do you think, Bob? I mean, you're pitching. Maybe you could use an extra strong arm like this.
John, we're pleased with the pitching we've received in the entire series, as a matter of fact. So Sergio is supposed to be on a pitch count, but by golly, he's doing a great job tonight, and Robinson did a wonderful job for us the night before. So pitching's coming along pretty good.
One out, nobody on, and here is Corey Snyder. So what's the status of the Giants now? I mean, you have lost Burkett, you've lost Billy Swift, you've lost Mike Jackson. I mean, are the Giants now in a mode where they've got to start cutting salaries?
No, but what we've done is we've picked up Trevor Wilson and Terry Mulholland and Jose Bautista, and we feel that's a step in the right direction. And today, of course, Glenn Allen Hill, and we feel with Dusty and I that there's the number 5 hole hitter we've been looking for. So you've got a starting rotation that could hopefully look like Portugal, Van Landingham, Mulholland, Wilson, and Mark Leiter, who is a fellow who has a 28 and 26 lifetime. So we're going to come along. You know, we made the observation here not long ago that in 1993 we didn't really know whether Burkett and Swift could win 20 apiece. They did. So we need some pitchers to step up this year and do the same thing for us.
Now, is Portugal, does he look like he's all past the problems he had last year?
Yes, I've had several sessions with Mr. Portugal, and he is ready.
1 ball, 2 strikes the count. From third base, Gary Scott, low throw, picked off by Brewer, and Corey Snyder is now 0 for 3. 2 down in the 8th inning.
Bob, what is the status of Trevor Wilson? I know you have to be counting on him as one of your starters, but, you know, he didn't pitch at all last year. How is he coming along?
Joe, I think the thing that put us over the top with him was that Kurt Manwaring had caught Trevor several times this winter, and the last occasion said he was throwing better than at any time he'd ever caught him in the past, and that sold us on going back to Jeff Moore at his agent and saying, hey, let's re-sign Trevor. And he threw on the side today and threw the ball real well.
And I guess you got Glenn Allen Hill to replace Strawberry in right field.
Exactly.
Now, Bob, well, where do we go from here in baseball? I mean, just go through this terrible work stoppage. Is there going to be peace and harmony at some point in the future between the owners and the players?
Well, John, without it, the game just is not going to flourish. So it's certainly up to both sides to put an agreement in place, and we've got to readdress the fan issue to the point where I know today I watched over at Indian School Park where we train and watched the players come to the fans, and I'm seeing a much better reception by the players and conversation with the fans, and I think that's very important. We need that desperately.
2 down, the second hit of the game. Ruben Smiley with that single is now aboard, and the batter will be Rico Rossi. Again, I think Valdez probably was supposed to pitch less than he has already. He's up around 75 pitches. His manager told me that he was probably going to pitch maybe 60 or so, but he's pitching such a magnificent game. It doesn't look like he's looking tired, does it?
No doubt Keith Bodie checked with Sergio, and he said, Skipper, let me give you another inning. So hopefully that's the case, and I might add that Keith Bodie has done a tremendous job, and we're very pleased to have him as our AAA manager.
So, Bob, what about all of these free agents who have, Joe asked Randy Smith earlier about this, down there in Homestead? I mean, as teams start getting more and more set, you would think you'd be able to go down there and almost cherry-pick free agents.
I wish that were the case. I don't think so. We at this moment have not sent anyone there because our roster's at 40, and we felt like that when we signed Glenn Allen today that maybe we were pretty much at limit. You can always designate players, as you know, and make roster spots, but basically we feel like we're pretty much there.
Let me ask you a question. Is Actually, it's a negative, but I wanted you to answer it because it was a positive, I'm sure. Last week in the local paper in San Francisco, one of the writers said that the reason that the Giants got rid of Billy Swift, John Burkett, etc., is because they were operating under the old system and trying to get down to this salary cap that was instituted by the the owners, earlier in this negotiation. Is that true, or
no, Joe? We were consistent with Billy Swift, for example, that we were only going to give him a 2-year contract. He ultimately got a rather substantial 3-year contract from Colorado, but we never varied from a 2-year offer that was at $7 million. I guess he got around 13 on a 3-year deal from Colorado, so that was never an issue. In the case of Burkett, we really didn't want to take him to arbitration again. We felt like that would be a costly process. In retrospect, if you held on to the fellow, you were going to either have to tender or non-tender, as it turns out today, and I expect we would have non-tendered. So we traded John Burkett and incidentally got 2 fine players, Desi Wilson, a first baseman, and Rich Aureli, a shortstop.
There's another base hit. Rico Rossi with a single to left field, and Ruben Smiley. Let's see if they get him. Poor throw from left field by Cookson, enabling Smiley to get back to second base. So 2 men are on, back-to-back singles here, so maybe Valdez is starting to run out of steam here.
Well, this ball's not hit that sharply, John. It just finds a hole. Good sinker away, actually, and he just found the hole on the left side, and actually a decent throw by Cookson, and the runner Smiley would have been retired easily. I want to get back to that, the implementation of the salary cap, Bob. I mean, that has to cause you some problems. You're going to operate under this system for a while. Now, all of a sudden, you're in a new system. That has to be very difficult for you as a general manager, I would think.
Well, there were about 3 different systems that were in play throughout the winter, starting in December. And sure, it was a challenge, Joe. But frankly, people say, well, you've really condensed 4 months of work into 2 weeks. I've enjoyed this challenge probably as much as any that I've ever faced during my career. I just have found it very interesting because
I think you got to do it this year every week.
Oh, no, please.
Do it this year.
No,
it's
please.
Exciting.
It's not that exciting.
It's like Merv Griffin invented it. It's a game show, you know.
Well, I'd take
we should do that.
I'd take 1 year of this game show, but I guarantee you this has been a tough go.
Well, you came into a difficult situation, though, when you took over the Giants.
Well, yes, and we were very fortunate. As you know, Joe, Dusty did a great job, and we were able to post 103 victories, 1 short of Atlanta, unfortunately. But the team played extremely well, and I look forward to this year in much the same mode as '93.
By the way, it's a big moment. Jim Batcher, the pinch hitter for Martinez, he's got a base hit, and that will put Las Vegas on the scoreboard. Smiley comes in to score. Going to third is Rossi, and Batcher with the pinch hit single, and it's now a 2-1 ball game. 3 consecutive 2-out base hits for Las Vegas, and Batcher has knocked Valdez out of the game at the same time. He has knocked in the first Las Vegas run of the game as Keith Dobie heads out to the mound to get Valdez. So only the 8th run in this 4-game series scored by Las Vegas.
Well, again, I think our pitching, John, has been very, very good, and that's a good sign for us. And it's also a compliment to Brian Sabian, my assistant, because he has done a tremendous job of recruiting these pitchers.
So, Sean Barton, a left-hander, is coming on to pitch. Sergio Valdez gets a nice round of applause as he departs. It is 2-1. Chance to tie the game for Las Vegas when we get back.
The Stars, good luck, didn't they?
The veteran right-hander, Sergio Valdez, and he certainly was impressive in his first start of the 1995 season for his Phoenix Firebirds here in the Pacific Coast League. But now he could end up without a win. He could even end up with a loss. Sean Barton, a left-hander out of the University of Nevada, has come on, and he is facing the left-handed veteran, Billy Bean. And a base hit would tie this ball game. There are runners at first and third. Rossi at third, Batcher at first. And Batcher back to first. Looks like Barton almost got him leaning the wrong way on that pickoff. But in other words, if both of these runners score, Valdez, after pitching a 1-hitter for 7 2/3 innings, could lose this game. And whether it happens in the big leagues or AAA or wherever, that hurts.
It hurts big time.
That's Rossi at third and Thatcher over at first. Both ready to go in anything with 2 down in the 8th inning. 2-1. Phoenix is out in front here. 3 consecutive singles with 2 down for Las Vegas after getting only 1 hit for 7 2/3 innings. We'll get the high strike called there.
I like it.
That's another issue, right? The umpires. I mean, are we going to get the umpires back by opening day?
Boy, only the negotiating committee there can answer that one. I certainly have heard nothing about that situation at all.
Well, I remember in '79 when the umpires had a strike, and that wasn't too good for, I guess it was the first 3 weeks or so of the season. I can't remember, but some very bizarre things happened.
Yeah, I recall.
I mean, it's not easy if you're a big league umpire to handle these big talents in the big league, much less an amateur. Well, nice play there by the second baseman, Chris Wimmer, to end the threat, and just 1 run is in for Las Vegas. Bob Quinn, good luck to you.
John, thank you very much. And to you, Joe, I thank you.
Thanks.
Good to see you both.
Bob Quinn, general manager of the 2-1 Phoenix as we go to the last of the 8th inning at sunset here in Scottsdale. Next Sunday, the big leaguers, Will Clark, the Texas Rangers, Juan Gonzalez and company, against the Boston Red Sox, Jose Canseco, a one-time Ranger, and Mo Vaughn. The Red Sox and Rangers, 7:56 Eastern, 4:56 Pacific. Then opening night, the one game to start it all off. Everybody else will open the next day. Tuesday, April 25th, the Dodgers and the Marlins from Joe Robbie Stadium. Mike Piazza, Raul Mondesi and the Dodgers. Gary Sheffield, Jeff Conine, and the Marlins. And I might add Gary Sheffield, Jeff Conine, and John Burkett, and Bobby Witt.
And Andre Dawson.
The Hawk is now a Marlin. He's come home to play for the hometown team. And here is the guy who may one day be the closer in San Diego. They're hoping so. Dustin Hermanson. We're anxious to see this guy. He's got a great arm.
Well, they feel like if there wouldn't have been for the strike, he may have been the guy setting up Trevor Hoffman for the this coming season. But he throws a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, good slider, and he's working on a changeup.
Joe, I heard mid-90s in his fastball.
Well, I'll tell you in a second here. Low 90s.
Well, it's early yet.
Yeah, it's early.
He's only 22 years of age, 6 feet 3 inches tall. As the batter is Chris Wimmer, the second place hitter in the Phoenix batting order. Hermanson went to Kent State University. Last year, his first in pro ball, he got into 23 games at AA and then A-ball, or AAA. And so he's still a very raw talent. John Matlack, great left-hander. Remember John Matlack with the
I don't want to remember.
It's a bad memory. I know you never
bad
bring him
memory
up.
for me.
Never start talking about your Matlack story.
Please.
You know, I just noticed that. Had a big curveball, Matlack.
And a good fastball.
Inside to Wimmer. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
There's John. In fact, I'm still bailing. Every time I see him, I start to leave him.
It's Matlack on the left side of the screen there.
You can notice he always has the ball in his hand, but if he would have thrown with his right hand, I wouldn't have any problems with him. He was a left-handed pitcher for the New York Mets.
You know, when he first came up, Jerry Grody was the catcher. Of course, they had Seaver and Kuzman. They had a lot of Nolan Ryan was on the staff. And they had a lot of great pitching talent in the ball club. Matlack came along. And they were playing the Giants. Strike 3 call to the inside corner. And down goes Wimmer for 1 away.
Well, this is one of those 90-mile-an-hour fastballs that tails back on the inside corner. And Wimmer is a strikeout victim.
That brings up Mark Leonard now. 1 out, nobody on. Now, Matlack was telling me they're going over the hitters before his first major league start with Jerry Grody. And they come to Willie Mays. And he says, whatever you do not throw him a changeup.
Right.
Because he will blast it. No matter what the situation, do not throw him a changeup. So now it's the 8th inning. Matlack's ahead 7-1. Pitching a great game, and Mays comes up. And Grody calls for a changeup. So Matlack shakes him off. Calls for the changeup 4 times. Matlack shakes him off 4 times. Finally, Grody runs out and says, throw the changeup, will you? Matlack says, all right, all right. So he goes back behind the plate, throws the changeup, and Mays crushes it, hits the 396-foot marker in left center at Shea. Triple for Willie Mays. So Matlack calls Grody out to the mound. He says, you told me not to throw him the changeup. What gives? He says, I just wanted to see how far he did it.
That builds confidence in your catcher, doesn't it?
Oh.
We're talking about 90-mile-an-hour fastball. Bill White, the scout that actually signed me to my first, professional contract, he also signed Dusty Baker. And we were talking before the game. I was asking him about how fast or how hard Valdez threw, and he says, as a scout, he doesn't care about the radar guns. He said he only cares about their motion and how quickly they get the ball to the plate with some movement. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Most scouts use the radar gun. And he said to me, he said, I can sit here and watch them. I can come within 2 miles an hour anyway.
Yeah.
And I guess you could after 40 years as a scout or whatever, sitting and watching.
Hey, you know if a guy's throwing hard or not.
Yeah.
Or if he's not throwing
true.
hard. Yeah. 94 miles an hour was the reading on our jugs gun on that last pitch from Hermanson to Leonard.
Well, let me watch this one. I'll get another view of that one.
3-2 to Mark Leonard. He's 0 for 2 with a walk. Base hit.
Now, that wasn't 94 miles an hour.
I think he's trying to avoid the walk on that one, Joe.
Okay.
I think he
took a little off?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, it wasn't 94.
Did we get a reading on that one?
Take a look at this pitch. See, that's a lot slower than 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
89. Okay, let's see.
Well, he did.
Yeah.
Took a little something off, I think.
Yeah, trying to throw a strike.
Well, that's one of the things I've been working with Hermanson. He has a tendency to get wild, not throw strikes. He's trying to avoid the walk. So Leonard is aboard the 6th hit for Phoenix. Phoenix is ahead 2-1, last of the 8th. The batter is Rod Brewer hitting cleanup. One-time college football quarterback. And then with the Cardinals. And as you mentioned earlier, Joe, with the Cebu Lions last year. Well, the strike is over. And, Joe, I just have as Mark McGuire mentioned, and Andy Bennis, and everybody's been with us tonight, it's really impossible to see another strike at any time this year, even though there's not an agreement right now.
It will be very difficult, as far as I'm concerned, for the players to go back on strike or for the owners to lock them out. I think both sides realize the damage that they have done to the game, and I don't think they want to do that again. In fact, the thing that I feel I've learned most tonight is that the players, the managers, and the general managers all realize that they've got to make a better effort towards the fans to get them back to where they were before this strike occurred.
Yeah. Well, I read a nice article about Dave Hollins of the Phillies,
right,
I think the Philadelphia Inquirer, and where he just said he had all this time and here baseball had been taken away from him, and he started thinking about it. He realized he'd been taking it for granted.
Right.
He started thinking about his relationship with the press, with the fans, and he said, I've got to make an effort to do better. That one is really crushed deep into right field. That one is gone over everything. Over the bullpen and back out toward the street. 2-run homer for Rod Brewer.
I bet that wasn't a 94-mile-an-hour fastball either.
About 120 miles an hour when it headed out. 4-1 Phoenix.
Well, that's the second home run of the season for the Phoenix Firebirds. Calvin Murray hit one on opening night. Fastball looks like it's on the inner half of the plate. Take a look at this swing. Nice swing by Brewer. It's the bat out front. And that's all you really need to do on a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. Get the bat out front.
Here now is Brent Cookson, the 5th place hitter in the order. Rod Brewer has hit as many as 18 home runs in a minor league season. That was when in Louisville one year. But in St. Louis, they were always after him. They always felt like he was trying to pull the ball, and they wanted him to just shorten up in his stroke, take the fastball to left field, and that sort of thing. Whenever he'd hit a home run, they said, uh-oh.
Yeah, he's in trouble.
Yeah. That one took a bad hop, came up and hit Rossi, and Cookson is safe.
Rossi played that a little bit off to the side, though, John. He didn't quite get in front of it.
That'll be scored as an error on Rossi.
See how he just plays it off to the side? He had a chance to take one more step and try to round it off, but he tried to backhand it, and he got a little bad hop. When you do that, you're not going to be able to make the play.
Gary Scott. It was 1991 that he looked like the phenom of the Chicago Cubs camp down here in the Valley of the Sun. And Ron Santo, everybody agreeing that he just looked like he was going to be a great big leaguer. He had such a fine spring that he made the ball club, even though he was coming up out of the lower minors. But then it all ended for him just about opening day of the regular season that year. He got into 31 games and had won 65 for the Cubs and eventually got sent out. And he has had a hard time getting back.
And I have to tell you this story. Maybe it's a little inside information, so to speak. That year, when everyone was touting him as a great phenom, Joe Altobelli was with the Cubs.
He was the hitting instructor.
Yeah, and he didn't think that he was going to be this great star, but obviously the guy was getting hits, and he wasn't going to say that publicly, but he didn't feel that he was going to be a big star.
Look at that. That looked like it was heading for straightaway center field to Smiley, and the wind blew it all the way over into right center where Billy Bean handled it. So that's the second out of the inning. Back to first is Cookson. 2 down in the 8th inning. The batter will be Clay Bellinger. Well, the 1995 season will be getting started on our special telecast right here on ESPN. Joe and I will be at Joe Robbie on Tuesday night, April 25th, for the Dodgers and the Marlins. And Joe, they're only going to play 144 games, which I think for fans who've been following the game for a long time is a disappointment. I mean, they're glad maybe that the game is back, but you like to have the full schedule so that you can talk about records, the comparison of what kind of a season it was, and yet 144 is not quite the full schedule. And a fan called me this week, and they made an interesting observation. They said, why not, as a gift to the fans, every team add a certain number of Sunday doubleheaders? 2 games for the price of 1, like they used to have almost every Sunday in the old days. And I'm thinking about that. I think, well, that is a great idea, because if you added 5 home Sunday doubleheaders and 5 road Sunday doubleheaders, that's a 154-game schedule now, which was the schedule in baseball for what, 60 years?
Yes.
Now, I think baseball ought to think about that.
I think it's a great idea. I don't know all the ramifications of scheduling, etc., but I think it's a great idea because it would give something back to the fans. Even if they only do 5 doubleheaders or whatever, it gets you closer to the 154.
Well, I think it's a gesture that's worth making. Now, if you ask a player, how about doing double? I mean, the player will always say, no, we hate doubleheaders. But I think that's not the right question.
But I think in this case, the players who realize, again, I think they are realizing they need to reach out to the fans, may not disagree.
It wouldn't add a single extra day to the schedule. Well, that was the 3rd out anyway on the strikeout, so there was no play needed at second base on Cookson. Bellinger strikes out to end the inning. We'll talk a little bit more about this. We're heading to the 9th inning now. Last chance for Las Vegas. They're looking at losing 4 in a row here. John Miller and Joe Morgan, your Sunday night telecasters, and beginning with this telecast every Sunday night at actually this year 7:56 Eastern Time, 4:56 Pacific. There'll be a ball game, and in fact, starting next week, it'll be a big league ball game. The next 2 Sundays, looks like we'll have some exhibition action for you, and then our first regularly scheduled regular season Sunday night telecast will be at the end of this month from Seattle. We'll have the Tigers and the Mariners from the Kingdome. Here is Scott Bream against new pitcher Tony Menendez, who is the closer here for Phoenix, and he's coming on to try and wrap this one up for Sergio Valdez. 4-1 in favor of Phoenix. The batter is Scott Bream, 0 for 3. He's the number 2 hitter in the order. He'll be followed by Steve Springer and Arky Sinfracco. So, Joe, I like my idea about these doubleheaders.
I agree.
Not only is it a gift to the fans, but it also is a gift to the fans who like the integrity of a full schedule being played.
The record books.
I mean, what would be the one thing that would be worse than a Matt Williams and a Griffey chasing Ruth and Maris and then having wiped out by the strike, which happened last year, would be for them to be chasing those guys?
And lose 18 games.
And know from the beginning that there's almost no chance that they catch them. There are not enough games.
I agree with you. I think it's a good idea.
1-2 the count. And that's a ball. Another thing I'd like to see is, I'd like to see, as long as I'm giving free advice here, I'd like to see Don Fear just come out and make a statement in public admonishing his players, the Major League players, I mean, in his association there, to not take any action against anybody who is a replacement player. I know human nature is human nature, but I think it'd be nice for the union to take the high road, make that, and just say, hey, let this episode be at an end, and let's move forward and try to, the healing process, let that begin now.
I mean, I think that's a good gesture, but as you said, human beings being human beings, I'm not so sure that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And being perfectly honest with you, I'm not so sure if I was a player how I would accept replacement players as well. I personally do not have any problem with replacement players, meaning the guys they call truck drivers, etc. People who came from outside of baseball and tried to realize their dream. I don't have any problem with those guys. But I must say that I did have a few problems with players who had played in the major leagues for a long period of time and came back. Now, I did have a problem with those guys, but because the union had done a lot for them in the past. But the replacement players didn't owe anybody anything. I mean, the guys that came off the streets and tried out for the teams and tried, I think they had a right to realize their dream. Hey, if I could go play in an NBA game, I would go shoot some hoops if I could. But I don't think there should be anything held against those players who came from outside of baseball and wanted to be major league players, hey, or wanted to play in the major leagues. I don't have a problem with that personally. But I don't know if you can get all the players to accept, you know, what you said, the premise that, hey, it's over with, let's go forward. Obviously, that is the best way, and it's probably the way that it should be done. But again, we're dealing with human emotion.
Yeah. But I think, why not just take the high road? Nice effort there by Gary Scott, and almost getting to that one. 3-2 the count remains. To Scott Breen leading off here in the 9th inning. I think what happens will happen, right. But I'd like to see the man at the head of the organization just come out publicly and advise his players, let's put all of that behind us. Let's start fresh with the replacement players. Let's start fresh with the owners, and let's everybody move toward a new era in baseball.
Well, as you know, John, when they had the umpires, replacement umpires, some umpires have never gotten over that. Yeah. I mean, some guys are still ostracized by their peers because they became replacement umpires during those years.
Still 3-2 to Wimmer. Here's really battling it out with Menendez. Wimmer's job is to get on base here. Not Wimmer. This is Scott Bream, the second place hitter. I had the wrong second place hitter up there for a moment. Scott Bream, and he's made Menendez throw 10 pitches already here. 3-2 the count. First long at bat we've had in this game. Had a lot of first ball swinging tonight. Oh, he walked him. Well, just an excellent at bat by Scott Bream. He needed to get aboard, and he did. Only the second walk allowed by Phoenix pitching. That brings up Steve Springer, the third place hitter. There's Keith Dobie, the manager. Steve Springer out of Long Beach and the University of Utah. Had a brief look with the Cleveland Indians back in 1990 and with the Mets in 1992. You know what he does in the offseason, Joe? He works at Disneyland.
Disneyland?
Yeah. Steve Springer's 34 years old. Now, what he does at Disneyland, I don't know. Just, I know he doesn't put that black stuff under his eyes, even on a bright, sunshiny day at Disneyland. Well, Las Vegas is coming after him. Base hit for Springer. Bream to second. That will bring up Sinfracco.
And it will also bring the tying run to the plate.
And Archie's got a little power.
Archie got some pop.
Sinfracco has hit as many as 12 home runs in a major league season. Year before last, The year he began with the Expos and then went to the Padres, and he finished with 12 home runs. Archie Sinfraco out of Purdue University, playing first base now.
And third base.
He says that's his main position.
Well, he's a pretty tall individual, pretty big guy.
Bullpen activity for Phoenix, meanwhile, 4-1. Phoenix ahead with 2 on and nobody out. Big curveball in there for a strike. 0-1 the count. Joe, people talk to me, and you hear from fans who are fed up with the game, who are angry and bitter. And they say, why should I come back? And you can't disagree with them. Why should they? I mean, if they're angry, because this is for fun. If you're a fan, the whole point of it is it's fun. It's enjoyable. It's a pastime. But by the same token, the fact that the game is back now means it's available. And, you know, in most people's lives, it's really not important except as the fact that it's fun. It's a pastime. So it's now back to be enjoyed. If you want to enjoy it, it's here.
Well, baseball is a great game, John. I mean, and I think the thing that makes it a great game is the fact that everyone can understand it. Everyone has played baseball at one time in their lives. You know, that includes females and, you know, all the kids. They've all played baseball. So baseball is a part of their life. And I think it's still a part of their life. Sure, we're all mad. You get mad at a lot of things, but you go back to them. I got mad once because my car wouldn't start.
Yeah. But I remember that.
Well, once it started, I went back and drove it again.
You were giving me a lift back to the hotel. I was madder than you.
But I drove it again after
I was mad that you talked me into going with you. Yeah. Well, I guess if Congress does something and you get mad at them,
right?
Well, what they do, it can affect your pocketbook. It can affect your quality of life. It can affect you in a real way.
Yes.
So you get mad at them. But baseball, hey, you get mad at them, whatever. But the ultimate thing about baseball is it's an entertainment. It's there for fun, and it doesn't affect your life or your pocketbook at all. That's a base hit. Sinfraco with a single. Coming in to score is Bream. Stopping at second is Springer. It is 4-2. And all of a sudden, Phoenix is being threatened again. The 2-run homer by Brewer in the 8th inning. Now, the margin by which they lead this game.
Well, Menendez is trying to close it out and save this game for Valdez. But that looks like he tried to turn that pitch over, trying to get a sinker down and away so he could get a ground ball to get a double play. But Sinfraco goes down and lines it to center field. Good piece of hitting there.
And Archie will almost assuredly be with the Padres when the big league season starts, April 26th. Here is Craig Colbert, catcher, out of Oral Roberts University. High drive deep to center. It's 4:30 out there, though, and they needed it. Caught at the warning track by Murray. Going to third base, Springer. Back to first, Sinfraco. Only got him to hit it into the right part of this ballpark.
Yeah, this is a pretty big ballpark.
Well, now Doby, the manager, as you look there, chewing that gum rather hard because all of a sudden here is Corey Snyder, and his pitcher is struggling. Here's Snyder, 0 for 3 in the game. And he is the possible go-ahead run here. By the way, it's Keith Bodie.
Right.
And I keep
Doby. You're Larry Doby.
With Doby, yeah.
Hey, Corey, what happened?
Keith Bodie, and I ask his forgiveness.
Hey, Corey.
Well, you pronounced it correctly most of the game.
Corey, what happened?
Now, if this had been, say, Doby Gillis,
yeah,
I would have been right.
Silver dreams, silver dreams.
2-0 the count. Well, Menendez is getting deeper and deeper. Now, this is a guy, Corey Snyder, who has hit as many as 33 home runs in a big league season. He's been in the big leagues a long time. Hit 11 home runs for the Dodgers year before last. Pops it up, foul, and out of play. 14 home runs for the Giants, 1992. Looked like when he came up, Joe, with Cleveland back in '86, he was going to be a huge star in this game. He had power, he had one of the great arms in the game at that time. And he could play shortstop, he could play right field, he could play all over the place.
You remind me of another Cleveland phenom, Super Joe Charbonneau.
Super Joe. Although he actually just lasted about the 1 year. 2-1 the count. Strike 2. That looked pretty fat, Joe.
Well, I think he brought that ball off the outside part of the plate and it broke back over the outside corner. Corey's looking for a ball that he can drive. Watch this pitch. See, it starts outside and comes back over the outside corner.
That was a nice pitch then.
Yeah.
And the curveball struck him out. Well, some things, I guess, just don't change, do they, Joe? I mean, Corey Snyder gets that hook, and it's always bad news for him.
Well, he was set up with the pitch away, and this ball starts in. You can see Corey's just a little bit out in front.
2 down. Last chance for Las Vegas. They're on the threshold of having been swept in a 4-game series to start the 1995 Pacific Coast League season. Breaking ball for a strike to Smiley. He got a base hit in the 8th inning, only the 2nd hit of the game. It was allowed by Valdez up till that time. Ruben Smiley out of L.A. Community College. 26 years old. He hammered that one, but foul. 0-2 the count. Well, I'm getting anxious to get things started this year, Joe. And it was interesting in the New York Times today. George Vesey had an interesting column saying that he hated to admit it, and it wasn't what he planned, because he kind of planned to ignore baseball for a while because he was upset. But the Yankees signed Wetland. He's getting the dispatches from the springtime from down south, and he caught himself checking the schedules for the Yankees and Mets, you know, to see when the Blue Jays were coming to town, and when the Cardinals and Cubs were coming to town, and whatnot. And he said he had to admit he was getting excited about it.
Well, that's good. You can love it or hate it, but you can't ignore it. People aren't going to be able to ignore the game. It is back, as you said, and you're either going to love it or you're going to stay mad, but you cannot ignore baseball.
Well, you're not still mad about your car with the...
No, I drive it every day now.
Okay, so you got over that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to check on that one thing before I drive home with you tonight. Popped it up. And it's a foul ball. Man.
This tying run was going to score.
One thing is for sure, as it looks like Flannery's discussing that call with Field and Culbreth. That's Flannery, the manager. One thing's for sure, Joe, the players here in Phoenix, the farm team of the San Francisco Giants, this is a lot like a night at Candlestick Park.
Yes, it is. They're preparing them. That ball started way behind the plate in foul territory. Now watch it. The wind's blowing it back towards home plate, but it is foul. Definitely a foul ball. Good call there.
It was Mirabelli. He gets charged with an error. And down on strikes with a breaking ball. And that has ended it. 4-2. Phoenix hangs on to win it. And the great outing by Sergio Valdez. He gets the win. Jose Martinez the loss. And Menendez with his 3rd save of the 4-game sweep. Rod Brewer with his first home run. 4-2 the final. Phoenix over Las Vegas. And thus our first Pacific Coast League telecast, Joe, of the year, and our last. We'll be back. It was a windy night here in the Valley of the Sun. Not the kind of weather you ordinarily would expect for this time of year. It was a little on the coolish side. I mean, it was only 71 degrees. At game time, we had, thank goodness we had our long underwear on. And Phoenix sent the hometown fans home happy with a 4-2 victory. Tonight was also ESPN banner night here. And these are some of the banners of these ESPN banners. The winner of the banner contest, it was a contest, by the way, received free season tickets to Scottsdale Stadium for Firebirds baseball. So I don't know which one was the winner, Joe.
They all look great.
Some people really wanted those season tickets. Now, that's my favorite right there. It's simple, but it says it all. Yeah, Keith and Dan, how about the plays of the week? They're coming up, Sports Center. And here is the winning banner. Go to the show, Firebirds Baseball, ESPN. Yeah, we'll be going to the show starting next Sunday and every Sunday for the rest of the baseball season in our 6th season of Sunday Night Baseball. Yeah, and they even got the Firebird there, too, didn't they? Craig Platanic, the general manager of the Phoenix Firebirds, thanks for his help. Mike Morocco, the public relations director, many thanks for his help as well. Final score was 4-2, Phoenix. And we want to remind you that, again, on our sister station, the Deuce, ESPN2, you'll be able to see minor league baseball all through the year, beginning May the 4th when Iowa plays at Buffalo in a special 10:30 a.m. ball game, because they have 6,000 kids on a field trip who will be going to the ball game that day. We'll be with you next Sunday night from Fort Myers with the Boston Red Sox and the Texas Rangers with some Grapefruit League action. Baseball tonight will be coming up next now with Chris Berman and Roy Smalley, followed by Sports Center. Next Sunday, Will Clark, the Texas Rangers, Jose Canseco, and the Boston Red Sox at 7:56 Eastern Time. Don't forget, baseball tonight, then Sports Center with the Masters wrap-up, Jordan versus the Cavaliers, more Major League Baseball signings. From Scottsdale, Arizona, John Miller for Joe Morgan. Good night, everyone.